channel. Okay, because I thought it was coming in email. Okay.
It was and is, but you can only get the last week's recording in the email, because as soon as the new session gets recorded, we have to erase the last session, because Zoom tells me I have too much. It's occupying too much space.
Yes, yes.
So then Samantha uploads the last one up into my YouTube channel so that you can get access to it there.
Okay, how do I access that?
The YouTube channel, just go to find me on YouTube. I can maybe even share it in the chat box here.
It's also in the email. It says find me on YouTube, and there's I put a link where you can click and it will link you directly to her YouTube.
Perfect.
Oh, it's on that original email that I got from you. It would be on there.
It's on the weekly replay email.
I don't think I get that. I don't think I've gotten that though.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we'll make sure that you're on our email list, Ernesto, for that, because you should be getting that weekly email.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that one either.
Strange.
I'm looking for it, and
What's your best email, Ernesto?
You can send it to my Colon Toltec at live.com.
And how do you spell that?
My last name is Colon, and Toltec is Toltec.
Wow, Toltec. I didn't know that you were doing that. That's fun.
It is fun.
Yes.
Is it COLONTOLTEC at live.com?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. You're in here, but let's see.
Maybe it was just a mistake and it wasn't sent. Yeah.
Hi, Carl. So the emails are automated, which means they are supposed to happen weekly without us lifting a finger. Once we put it into motion, it should just continuously keep going. So maybe there was a little glitch in the system.
I think that might be why, because it says that you're subscribed to the A Course in Miracle email reminder automation as of March 8th, 2021.
Okay, well, we'll check and see what's going on. If none of you have gotten the emails, maybe there's something happening with Active Campaign.
Yeah, I mean, these electronic things are kind of like, very fickle. I mean, sometimes I don't get a message from somebody that, oh, I send you a message, you didn't get it? And I'll get it like 2 days later or 3 days later.
Right.
So, and that's texting, which is usually pretty, I want to say accurate, but that's the word. And anything electronic, remember, it's like going up to the top of a mountain and yelling out a secret. Eventually, it's going to get to somebody's ear. And the key word here is eventually.
Eventually, yes.
That
is true.
Well, there's no secrets, and you don't know when you're going to get that secret, but you're going to get it.
You're going to get it. So how is everybody doing? Anything anybody wants to discuss with regard to A Course in Miracles, doing the lesson?
I can share something. It's not actually, it's not even personal. There was in this weekend, there was a conference that Bill Free organized. Bill Free, the husband of Lisa Natoli. And so it wasn't totally about Course in Miracles. It was more about like non-duality. And, but there were like, it's like some of the people who talked were Course in Miracles, some were just like kind of non-dual teachers. And I registered for that, honestly, and I forgot about it totally. And I mean, it's like a free thing, but then you can upgrade, if you want to listen again, to have the recordings. And I just kind of opened my emails, the power of emails. Friday morning, and I saw it, and it's like, oh, okay, I might as well go to one, check it out, and then yeah, it was in America time, so it's like half of it was nighttime for me, but I joined some, and really, it was really good, actually.
Oh,
It was
fun.
like, yeah, it's like, I was surprised, actually, because it's like, because well, I came to Course in Miracles many, many years ago, but it's like, not that I really practice, but and non-duality, I came to that, I don't know, some year, like maybe less than 10 years ago, something like somewhere between, yeah, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, something. And then I went to India for searching, and anyway. And the last few years I kind of left it. I felt it's not really my thing anymore. So this conference was actually kind of like, got me back to, okay, that's what I liked about it, is kind of seeing that in a positive light. Like it's yeah. So it was good. It was really nice.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Hmm.
Love to hear that. And we were just talking to Ernesto. I don't know if anybody heard, but his email has Toltec in it. So does that mean that you are a Nagal? I mean, how does that work? I'm not that familiar with that.
No, I just picked that to make it something that I could remember, because I
cool.
couldn't remember emails. So
Mhm.
I used my last name and put that there next to that's easy for me. That's the only way I could remember an email now, or my email, that is.
Right.
So that's just, and I figured I'd take on that name to maybe, kind of infuse myself with some of that knowledge.
Wisdom, sure. Sure, why
Right,
not?
some of that wisdom, right? Exactly. Some of that wisdom, it's like, so,
Yeah.
I've been reading, I don't know if you've ever read some of the Carlos Castaneda books.
No.
So he actually introduced the world to the Toltec wisdom.
Oh, I did not know that.
And he wrote, like, I don't know, 13 books. He wrote a bunch of them. The only thing is that even though he is given he introduced the world to it, he actually, from what I understand, abused the power of it.
Mm.
So in essence, it kind of it's viewed as fiction.
Okay.
But Don Miguel actually had people, if they wanted to expand the whole Toltec wisdom thing, to read the books, because there is good information in there.
Right.
And I had read those books before I found out about Don Miguel.
Oh, how interesting.
Right. That's how I like, wow, I was driven, man. I was just, this is something that I was driven because I wanted to, I guess I was seeking this knowledge,
Sure.
this way of living. And then I started to read, Pima Schroden and all the other luminaries that write about this kind of spiritual experience. And it's all, to me, I see it as all tied in. The Course came later as well, through Maggie. I don't know if you remember Maggie.
Oh, yeah. How is she doing? Oh my gosh, I haven't heard from Maggie.
I haven't heard from her. She went to Albany, and I think she might still be up there.
Wow. I should reach out to her. I don't even know if I have her contact information.
Yeah, I haven't heard from her in years. She used to be in contact, I think, mostly with Joyce.
Yes.
And Joyce passed away.
I did hear that. I just have such a special place in my heart for Joyce.
Yes.
Yeah, I did hear
It's all tied in. I mean, it's all tied in from the time that I started doing the Toltec work. Every time I read about something, it's all tied into that. Whether it's Pima Schroden, Eckhart Tolle, it's all, to me, but it reinforces. I like to read it because it reinforces that belief system.
Sure. I love to hear about people's journeys. Angelina was just talking a little bit about her journey earlier. So it's just always fun to hear like where people are in their journey right now, you know, how they started on their journey. I just find it so interesting and fun to just connect with people about their journey and their spiritual path. Fun.
Yeah.
Let's see, we still have 12 minutes. So,
Wow.
and is anybody doing the lessons?
No. I'm not.
Carl, you're still on mute. I was trying to read your lips, but I'm not good at that.
I do it with Mary Ann every day.
Oh, yeah. Good. How's that going?
Good. It's same. Their lessons. I keep forgetting them, and I keep getting reinforced. And it's she's a good speaker.
Yes. Yeah, she is. She is. I was actually working on a meditation earlier on forgiveness because I'm creating my signature program right now, which is a 6-week course that takes you through all kinds of inner work, you know, exploring your early fear-based story, forgiving, you know, that inner child and all of the early conditioning. And then it takes you through exploring and discovering your passion. And part of the program that I'm creating has a lot of meditations, and I'm doing sound healing, meditation, background music as I'm, you know, doing guided meditations. And I'm working on one now on forgiveness, and I'm using the Course in Miracle lesson on forgiveness that tells you to, you know, visualize someone you experience, you feel as an enemy, and also visualize someone that you feel as a friend, and make those two pictures come together. So that's part of the guided meditation that I'm doing on forgiveness. So it's just so interesting how the course has all these amazing modules and pieces that help us to just move forward and undo the blocks to love's presence. Forgiveness is a big one, right?
Isn't it ever?
Yeah.
And learning to forgive, because I learned about forgiveness through the whole Toltec thing and the Course in Miracles. One of the things that I know someone dear to me always used to say, you know, I can forget, but I can't forgive. I cannot forgive. I can forget, but I cannot forgive. That always didn't sound right to me, but I couldn't explain it. So once I realized, you know, and finally I believe I just told her, I said, you know, if you can't forget, how can you forgive?
Right.
They go hand in hand, I thought, you know. But it's funny how that in itself, that statement in itself, people don't realize is preventing them from really forgiving.
Sure, because they're holding on to it, holding on to the grievance. Absolutely.
Words are powerful.
They are. Yes, they always create.
Mm-hmm.
Great to have everyone here. We have another 9 minutes if anybody wants to discuss anything related to A Course in Miracles, or just what's going on in their life, which obviously always goes back to A Course in Miracles in one way or another. Kathleen Klein was here over the weekend. She has been traveling around with her trailer and her Subaru and her dog Nina. So she was in St. Augustine. So Kathleen and I spent a day kind of going through Old St. Augustine on Saturday. We went to the farmer's market and went out to Anastasia National Park, which is where she was staying here. And we went out to the St. Augustine Beach. So we had a really nice day on Saturday. It was supposed to be a complete rain out, but you know, in Florida, when it says 50% chance of rain, it means that somewhere in the, 400 square miles of this area, it's going to rain. There's a 50% chance it's going to rain. And then it's going to be sunny everywhere else. So it actually ended up not being such a bad weekend. Today, I think, was supposed to be a rain out too, but beautiful blue skies out my window right now.
It was supposed to snow here on Friday, so we got a bunch of things canceled because it was supposed to be a couple of inches of snow, and nothing happened.
Oh,
It rained for a while.
oh, jeepers.
Where are you, Carl?
Northwest Connecticut, right near Massachusetts and New York, right up in the corner.
Yep.
The bottom parts of the Berkshires.
Yeah, it's supposed to snow here Wednesday.
Mm.
But again, it could be one of those things where it snows like up in Walton,
Right.
and over here we get rain, So who knows? Although we can still get storms up here. We can still get them. They won't pass, and the snow will really melt. It'll just be that wet snow because the ground is still warm, very warm right now.
Right.
60-degree days here, so.
No, that's nice. So I see you're working
So
on,
I love,
hi, Mary.
hi. So I love the playfulness of spirit, if you will. I had told myself that I was going to deal with the issue of not always dating someone older than my age, which served me very well when I was young, because I didn't really hang out with the crowd of guys who just really drank and partied and whatever all the time. And so I typically dated people older. And finally, now that I'm older quite a bit myself, I've come to examine that again and said, it's okay now. I could date someone my age, maybe even a little younger. And then a few weeks ago, I also declared that I was growing younger with age. That now that I have a lot of spirit-filled time in my life, I actually feel like I'm getting lighter and freer and younger. And so I wound up a young man who's 38 decided he would flirt with me a couple of weeks ago. And I was hysterical, thinking like, Spirit, that's testing me a little too far. I have kids older than he is. I'm not quite ready for that. But I found it extremely amusing that once I declared it, I was actually able to manifest it and, then had to examine something else that went along with it, i.e. my maternal feelings about someone that young. But it's just so amusing. Life is just so much fun to see it through that change of perception and live it through spirit.
That's wonderful, Mary. I love that.
Hey, men date younger women all the time. So, I mean, really, just because they termed it cougar, not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, when you said it, men date younger women. I don't know about the reverse of that. I have to figure that out for myself yet. My head can't wrap around that. But it is a fun experience. It just keeps showing me what I have to get over.
I think that's so true. I mean, anytime you allow more to come into your vibrational frequency and your vibrational awareness, your life just expands, right? And so many times we put up roadblocks to that expansion in all kinds of ways, not only just relationships, but expanding spiritually, financially. There's so many blocks that I think we have in our way that are just part of our domestication experience. If we don't look at it, like you said, Mary, and challenge it and say, okay, I think I'm ready to allow something more. So good for you. That's awesome to play with that and see what shows up.
Yeah, I mean, while we're on the subject, I'll just say it. I've gone out, when I was younger, I went out with a much older woman. I mean, and it was all right. Actually, it was very good. So.
That's great. This is now the Course in Miracles dating room. No, just kidding. Hey,
Isn't that duality?
See you here. Hi, Connie. Thanks for joining. Just kidding about the dating thing. This is not a dating site.
Thank you.
Although I did see on one of the sites I was in recently, there is a Course in Miracles singles group that just recently started that was getting all kinds of interesting comments. Of course, the ego likes to get wrapped up in that, you know, but I just thought, oh, that's interesting. You know, someone decided to do that.
They should read the section about special, what is it, special relations?
Special relationships. Yes. Yes.
That's very special. A Course in Miracles dating.
Isn't that duality?
Yes, that's duality. Ooh, Alberto, you look like you're in a very cool mandala space today. I love that image.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
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 You were just sharing some interesting, fun topics on what happens when we allow new experiences to enter our awareness, and how, you know, it's just a virtual playground, you know, just kind of that moment we forgot to laugh and took it all too seriously.
Yeah, no, the Course in Miracles is very clear about finding the happy dream.
Yep, exactly. And today we are actually on chapter 2, section 7, cause and effect. Ooh, seems like we always, you know, talk about things and then whatever we're reading just has to do with whatever we've just been talking about. So we can continue conversing. I am going to start sharing my screen so that we're ready to start reading at 12:30, since there's just a minute to go. It's 12:30 right now, so I'm going to jump in and start reading, and then after a first section, we will pause and discuss. So, A Course in Miracles, chapter 2, section 7, cause and effect. You may still complain about fear, but you nevertheless persist in making yourself fearful. I have already indicated that you cannot ask me to release you from fear. I know it does not exist, but you do not. If I intervened between your thoughts and their results, I would be tampering with a basic law of cause and effect, the most fundamental law there is. I would hardly help you if I depreciated the power of your own thinking. This would be in direct opposition to the purpose of this course. It is much more helpful to remind you that you do not guard your thoughts carefully enough. You may feel that at this point it would take a miracle to enable you to do this, which is perfectly true. And you are not used to miracle-minded thinking, but you can be trained to think that way. All miracle workers need that kind of training. I cannot let you leave your mind unguarded, or you will not be able to help me. Miracle working entails a full realization of the power of thought in order to avoid miscreation. Otherwise, a miracle will be necessary to set the mind itself straight, a circular process that would not foster the time collapse for which the miracle was intended. The miracle worker must have genuine respect for true cause and effect as a necessary condition for the miracle to occur. Both miracles and fear come from thoughts. If you are not free to choose one, you would also not be free to choose the other. By choosing the miracle, you have rejected fear, if only temporarily. You've been fearful of everyone and everything. You are afraid of God, of me, and of yourself. You have misperceived or miscreated us and believe in what you have made. You would not have done this if you were not afraid of your own thoughts. The fearful must miscreate because they misperceive creation. When you miscreate, hold on one second. When you miscreate, you are in pain. The cause and effect principle now becomes a real expediter, though only temporarily. Actually, Cause is a term properly belonging to God, and his effect is his Son. This entails a set of cause and effect relationships totally different from those you introduce into miscreation. The fundamental conflict in this world, then, is between creation and miscreation. All fear is implicit in the second, and all love in the first. The conflict is therefore one between love and fear. It has already been said that you believe you cannot control fear because you yourself made it, and your belief in it seems to render it out of your control. Yet any attempt to resolve the error through attempting the mastery of fear is useless. In fact, it asserts the power of fear by the very assumption that it need be mastered. The true resolution rests entirely on mastery through love. In the interim, however, the sense of conflict is inevitable, since you have placed yourself in a position where you believe in the power of what does not exist. Nothing and everything cannot coexist. To believe in one is to deny the other. Fear is really nothing, and love is everything. Whenever light enters darkness, the darkness is abolished. What you believe is true for you. In this sense, the separation has occurred, and to deny it is merely to use denial inappropriately. However, to concentrate on error is only a further error. The initial corrective procedure is to recognize temporarily that there is a problem, but only as an indication that immediate correction is needed. This establishes a state of mind in which the at-one-ment can be accepted without delay. It should be emphasized, however, that ultimately no compromise is possible between everything and nothing. Time is essentially a device by which all compromise in this respect can be given up. It only seems to be abolished by degrees because time itself involves intervals that do not exist. Miscreation made this necessary as a corrective device. The statement, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life," needs only one slight correction to be meaningful in this context. He gave it to his only begotten Son. It should especially be noted that God has only one Son. If all his creations are his sons, everyone must be an integral part of the whole sonship. The sonship, in its oneness, transcends the sum of its parts. However, this is obscured as long as any of its parts is missing. That is why the conflict cannot ultimately be resolved until all the parts of the sonship have returned. Only then can the meaning of wholeness in the true sense be understood. Any part of the sonship can believe in error or incompleteness if he so chooses. However, if he does so, he is believing in the existence of nothingness. The correction of this error is the at-one-ment. I've already briefly spoken about readiness, but some additional points might be helpful here. Readiness is only the prerequisite for accomplishment. The two should not be confused. As soon as a state of readiness occurs, there's usually some degree of desire to accomplish, but it is by no means necessarily undivided. The state does not imply more than a potential for a change of mind. Confidence cannot develop fully until mastery has been accomplished. We have already attempted to correct the fundamental error that fear can be mastered, and have emphasized that the only real mastery is through love. Readiness is only the beginning of confidence. You may think this implies that an enormous amount of time is necessary between readiness and mastery. But let me remind you that time and space are under my control. Ooh, that was really good. Does anybody want to comment about any of that, or does anyone have questions or want to share something that they have experienced with regard to what we just read? I loved so much of this. You know, I was thinking about that last part that said about the readiness, right? And that there is only one son, because so many times we think of all of the sonship, right, as so many individual different identities and personalities, many of whom we have conflicts with, right? So we look at everybody and go, how can I be that? How can I think that thought? And, you know, we kind of hold that as being outside of us, like that can't be me because I would never do that, right? And in a sense, we're doing this like, I am this person, therefore I cannot hold that thought and be that person. And we're making the separation even further, right? And we pit, well, this is me versus them, me against them. And I look at like all of the different relationships that we have in our life, and instead of trying to pit us against them, why not just take a look at who is in our immediate surrounding area that we can heal that relationship with, right? And as we heal those relationships, an interesting thing happens. It's almost like so many other relationships then heal that we're not even aware of. I know I've had times in my life where I've had conflicts and unforgiving thoughts, you know, towards somebody that maybe has done something egregious toward me, right? Like really, really bad. And, you know, I've been this victim of this horrible thing that happened. But when I finally get to that place where I'm ready to offer forgiveness, and many times it's because I've had these like amazing healing dreams that have come in where I've been able to empathize with the person. I've been able to see the situation from the one mind of God, right? Where I cannot hold on to that victim mentality, but see it in more of a loving perspective. And I've been able to forgive that relationship. Strangely, that forgiveness kind of has a trickling effect, right? And now I've also forgiven all kinds of other things. So I'm able to be more expansive and more open to be more loving. And I feel like as we do that and we broaden that circle of at-one-ment, you know, around us, that eventually the whole sonship, I think that's how the whole sonship gets healed eventually, just by looking at what can I forgive here. And it just kind of has this butterfly effect that goes outward. And it really doesn't even matter because we're all one anyway, right? So if we get too preoccupied with this thought of I versus them, then it takes us away from doing the work. It takes us away from the real inner work of truly forgiving and loving and just choosing love, right? Because you can't master fear. You can only master love. So for me, that's what this whole section is all about. You know, forget about trying to master the fear. Concentrate more on just expanding the love and mastering that. Anybody have any comments on that?
Hi, Terry.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love the way the course teaches us that all forgiveness is actually self-forgiveness. That through our forgiveness, we're healing our own need for forgiveness because of our unconscious guilt. And as soon as we send healing thoughts outside, we're actually feeling them as well and healing from them.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And I was just sharing
Yeah.
earlier that I'm creating a forgiveness meditation right now, using the lesson on forgiveness. And that's exactly what it says, Freddie. So thank you so much
Right.
for sharing that.
Okay.
Beautiful.
That was Mary, wasn't it? Wanted to speak.
Yeah, hi, Freddie.
Hi, Mary.
So I love the way that we are able to, in many ways, integrate with and forgive ourselves. We have, so many diverse aspects to our own personalities, and they come up, and sometimes they're in direct conflict, and we sort that out. But we inevitably consider ourselves sort of an identity, if you will. And yet we're able to live in this body, in this illusion of being an identity with ourselves. But we then have a hard time taking that to the next step and projecting out and allowing others in that to also be part of that oneness self, because there may have been a time that we could have thought or done a behavior that annoys us greatly in someone else. But when we can see that it actually is part of us, we can kind of smooth out some of the edges and live with that. And as I said, we do that with ourselves much more readily, because that's the premise of the world that we live in. And we accept these things that are really very counterintuitive, or at the least show us that we can do it in other ways, but the world says differently than the real truth. So we can.
Thank you for sharing that, Mary. I also love the part that says about it is much more helpful to remind you that you do not guard your thoughts carefully enough, right? We allow our thoughts to miscreate and to align with fear, and we aren't vigilant of consciously choosing love as often as we could be to have that alignment and that at one-ment, right?
It's easy to forget about your relationship with God, isn't it? I mean, the lesson I did today was I am at ease in God, or something. I've forgotten it. I am at ease in God, something like that. And all it takes is to remember it, and to remember it is to experience it. But the world is so attractive, isn't it?
Right.
It always is catching the attention.
I think that's one thing I love about the lessons, Freddie, is that they're meant to experience, right? They're meant to bring into the world. You take the lessons into the world and say, okay, how can I experience this lesson today with all of this trying to get my attention?
Yeah. But it's so easy to feel at ease in God.
Yeah.
If you just let that focus be in your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you mean I rest in God.
Maybe it's that one. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's like the lesson that if you start from 1st January, that's the lesson today.
Okay. Yeah. I rest in God.
Yeah.
No.
But
It's
yeah,
kind of similar.
I also I don't practice as much as I want to. I'm more like just reading the lesson beginning of the day, and then usually I forget about it. But today I was like walking by the beach, and I realized how my thoughts were my mind was so like occupied. And then it just came by itself. There came that sentence, I rest in God. And yeah, so it's like, there was some kind of like a click, like, okay, there's another choice here. You don't have to be with all these worries and thoughts. Like I can rest in God, and at least like for that, you know, that there was like peace, there was like rest, you know.
And the line that I like here was, readiness is only a prerequisite for accomplishment. And the two should not be confused.
Right.
That really stuck out for me. You know, sometimes we want to accomplish something, but are you ready for it? Are you really ready for it? And if you are, it's been accomplished. That's how I understand it. Because, you know, sometimes we want to change our behavior, our dream, right? We talked about here the dreaming world. Mm-hmm. Because we're always dreaming all the time, whether you're asleep or you're awake. And are you ready to change your dream? Do you really want to change your dream? Let go of the illusion of fear, hate, and all of that, and work love so that you can change that dream to a happy dream. You know, sometimes our nightmares is telling us to change the dream. That's why you're having a nightmare.
Right.
But are you ready for that change?
I think too, I think you're talking about paragraph 7,
Yes.
where it says, the state does not imply more than a potential for a change of mind. Confidence cannot develop fully until mastery has been accomplished. So I think also it says, we have already attempted to correct the fundamental error that fear can be mastered, and have emphasized that the only real mastery is through love. So readiness is only the beginning of confidence. So I think too, it's one of those things where you can be ready, but then if you still are not being vigilant of your mind wandering, you could slip back, right, to that point of not getting into mastering it because you're not being mindful of what you're aligning with. So I think it's also taking that next step and spending that time and like exactly what Angelina said, I rest in God, calling on that alignment with love as an intention, instead of like allowing your mind to be consumed by all of the worry thoughts, right? So say, yes, I'm ready. And now what am I going to do next? Let go and let God. I rest in God. And I think that's like the 1-2 punch, right? That gets you into that place of mastery when you consciously allow your mind to be brought under the control of the one mind, at one mind, right? Of the one mind of love, the one mind of God, universe, whatever term resonates with you. I think that's an important part of the lesson today, is to take that next step and say, I rest in God. I align with love. I choose to align my thoughts with that one mind of God. Okay, anything else, or shall we keep going? All right. Fear and conflict. Nope. The meaning of the last judgment. That's the next one. I did that last time. I went backwards instead of forward. Okay. Chapter 2, section 8, the meaning of the last judgment. One of the ways in which you can correct the magic miracle confusion is to remember that you did not create yourself. You're apt to forget this when you become egocentric. And this puts you in a position where a belief in magic is virtually inevitable. Your will to create was given you by your creator, who was expressing the same will in his creation. Since creative ability rests in the mind, everything you create follows that whatever you alone make is real in your own sight, though not in the mind of God. The basic distinction leads directly into the real meaning of the last judgment. The Last Judgment is one of the most threatening ideas in your thinking. This is because you do not understand it. Judgment is not an attribute of God. It was brought into being only after the separation to the overall plan. Just as the separation occurred over millions of years, the Last Judgment will extend over a similarly long period, and perhaps an even longer one. Its length can, however, be greatly shortened by miracles, the device for shortening, but not abolishing time. If a sufficient number become truly miracle-minded, this shortening process can be virtually free yourself from fear quickly, because you must emerge from the conflict if you are to bring peace to other minds. The Last Judgment is generally thought of as a procedure undertaken by God. Actually, it will be undertaken by my brothers with my help. It is a final healing rather than a meting out of punishment, however much you may think that punishment is deserved. Punishment is a concept totally opposed to right-mindedness, and the aim of the Last Judgment is to restore right-mindedness to you. The Last Judgment might be called a process of right evaluation. It simply means that everyone will finally come to understand what is worthy and what is not. After this, the ability to choose can be directed rationally. Until this distinction is made, however, the vacillations between free and imprisoned will cannot but continue. The first step toward freedom involves a sorting out of the false from the true. This is a process of separation in the constructive sense and reflects the true meaning of the apocalypse. Everyone will ultimately look upon his own creations and choose to preserve only what is good, just as God himself looked upon what he had created and knew that it was good. At this point, the mind can begin to look with love on its own creations because of their worthiness. At the same time, the mind will inevitably disown its creations, which, without belief, will no longer exist. The term Last Judgment is frightening, not only because it has been projected onto God, but also because of the association of last with death. This is an outstanding example of upside down perception. If the meaning of the Last Judgment is objectively examined, it is quite apparent that it is really the doorway to life. No one who lives in fear is really alive. Your own Last Judgment cannot be directed toward yourself because you are not your own creation. You can, however, apply it meaningfully and at any time to everything you have made, and retain in your memory only what is creative and good. This is what your right-mindedness cannot but dictate. The purpose of time is solely to give you time to achieve this judgment. It is your own perfect judgment of your own perfect creation.
Well, what happened here?
Alberto, you're the host now.
Really? She designated me as to be the host? Oh, my Lord. I wish I could. I don't have the book with me. We should allow her probably 5 minutes to reconnect.
Yeah,
Just
kind of-
lost her, yeah?
she was fading out a couple of times there.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
Yeah.
So her connection probably failed.
Must be the Last Judgment.
The Last Judgment got She's the only one gone.
So I
too.
guess we can discuss it. While we're waiting for her to come back, we can discuss what was read.
Sure.
Yeah, Mary, what's your point on it?
I'd rather hear from you guys. I speak a lot.
Certainly does seem that we're in it right now. for the last year and a half almost.
What, the Last Judgment?
Yeah, where things are in upheaval.
Well, what it says here in the book, the line that it says, it simply means that everyone will finally come to understand what is worthy and what is not.
Which seems to be happening. It also says the last judgment might be called the process of right evolution.
Not sure what happened there.
Hey,
You're
I'm
back.
Hey, I'm glad you guys kept going. I thought, oh no, did everything just stop?
just you, honey.
Nah,
Yay, you guys are still here. Hooray. Did
Yeah.
you, were you able to hear everything I read, or did it cut out halfway?
Right at the end.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. I missed anything you guys were talking about, so I'm not sure if you were able to talk about anything or you just kind of had other
no,
conversations.
we were. We were starting a discussion.
Perfect. Thank you guys for
I'm so
carrying
glad
on.
you're back, Terry, because you put me in charge as a host. I said, oh my God, what am I gonna do now?
So
This
we've
is a
got
good
some
lesson to
future-
me.
Some future facilitators here, I guess.
Yeah, the message for me here with this interruption is I need to download the book.
Oh, there you
So
go.
just in case, that's my message right there.
Yep, that could work. That was a good one. So what were you guys talking about?
We were discussing the last judgment. What the meaning of the last judgment is here.
Somebody has spoken.
I know.
It's hard to put the finger on what it actually means for me, because I think the text is talking about the last judgment. For me personally, it's the decision for God as opposed to the ego. That's the judgment. That's my final judgment, that I can choose, to be for God. But it also talks about everybody. So it talks about everybody in terms of the last judgment. So it seems to be speaking for everybody as well. Not just, I'm reading it personally.
Right. And I think the interesting thing about what you just said, Freddie, is that there's only one son.
Yeah.
So you are everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that one mind, I think that's exactly what it is. And as you are more focused on resting in God, right, which is what we were talking about today's lesson, as you are more focused on that, so will you also affect the rest of the minds of the sonship, right? Because we're all connected, right, through the Holy Spirit or the umbilical cord or the cosmic goo or whatever you want to call that part of us that's connected, right, to that one mind. So as you accept the at-one-ment for yourself, it's that butterfly effect again, right?
Yeah. It's very interesting thought that if I clean my act up and I step into my wholeness, I really, really do embrace this truth, that I can actually have a big impact on the people around me. But I mean, I've heard it expressed that you affect the whole world.
Sure, because
I kind of struggle a bit to see the logic in it, to be honest.
well, I can tell you from personal experience that when I got to that place in my life where I was ready to accept the at-one-ment for myself, and I think we get through places where we do accept the at-one-ment, and then maybe we go through another something, right, and we fall down a little bit, or we jump back into the dunking pool, or whatever you want to call it. Then we get to that place again in our life where we accept the at-one-ment for ourselves. It's like when you change the way you see the world you see changes, right?
Right.
So I think in essence, it does affect the entire world, because now you're looking at a world forgiven because you have forgiven yourself, and you can't help but see love everywhere.
And you can't really be forgiven unless you extend that love everywhere, can you?
Right. It's kind of,
You know,
it's both ways.
you can't be selective about forgiveness.
Right. And when you try to be, then you see how it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so you're at a higher vibration, if you will. And if you don't let others kind of take that from you, then they basically wind up being raised too. Because when you forgive, when you put down judgment, even if they are still judging you, you don't really see it as such. You just wind up seeing it as their path that they're in, and they will change when they're ready, but you don't wind up feeling like, oh my God, I did something awful because so-and-so thinks so, or whatever. You can turn back to spirit and just say, I'm whole, and I'm spirit-filled and free, and I'm perfect. Even in my imperfections, I'm perfect, and so I'm going forth with the truth of who I am. And so you're not judging yourself either in not judging others. So you're able to be one with them, even if they haven't quite accepted that. It's just their path and your experience in this world, but you don't have to take it on anymore because you've let go of that piece. The truth of who you are isn't connected to what others think in the illusion.
Yeah. Talk about miracle-mindedness. I'm going to try it, Mary.
Awesome. And
Yeehaw.
I think that's also part of what we just read. I'm not sure if it was in this section. And hi, Tim, good to have you here. We just finished chapter 2. And you're still on mute. And part of this is what we just read is that when you get to that point of letting go of your miscreations, right? And you only hold on to what is good. When you only hold on to those loving thoughts, and you are ready to let go of any fear-based thoughts, whether it's a grievance, whether it's a judgment, whether it's a fear-based thought or whatever is that fear-based thought, you're ready to let those go and only hold on to your love-based thoughts.
And you've got to catch yourself when you're having those miscreations.
Yes, vigilance of mind wandering.
Yeah, that's why it's very recommended to turn off the TV. Don't let that fear-based, documentation come into your mind, because you're going to start miscreating like crazy, especially nowadays and whatever is going here in the U.S. I don't know in other parts of the world, but man, turn it off. Enjoy yourself, read in the Course of Miracles or pick a hobby or something, but stay away from TV. My God.
Thank you for that.
Exactly.
Amen.
That's right. That's right.
It's enough. I usually just, I'll get little things on my phone and it'll say, another shooting, whatever. And I go, okay. And I just take them off. I don't click on them because it leads to another thing. And then you find, oh my God, I've lost 2 hours. And all I've done is read a bunch of negative stuff.
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Was another one here in Austin this morning. I can't believe it's only 2-3 hours away from where I live. And I got a very good friends that live in Austin for a long time. I'm just hoping to check with my friends, my colleagues that live up there, that everything is okay with him and his families. And the rest of it, trash it.
Send them love and peace and healing. And
I try to rest in the idea that this will pass. This will pass.
or even what we said earlier, rest in God, right? Rest in love.
Yeah, because if you start thinking that it's getting worse, then that's the way it goes.
And thoughts create. Whatever you share, you strengthen,
You're
right?
creating. Don't create that stuff. Create it based on love.
When you meditate or pray, that's where you have to send your love energy to, all that negative stuff. Just keep sending it. And know that you're not praying by yourself, by the way. It is said that something between 15 and 30,000 people are either meditating or praying throughout the world.
Yeah.
So you are joined with that strength. Keep that in mind.
You talked about TV. I saw a few days ago a really nice movie called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's about Fred Rogers. It's a really great movie and an amazing example of someone who was on TV but was able to actually affect in a positive way to, change the minds of children in a good way.
I saw that. That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
I saw that movie.
Yeah, that was
I
good.
need to.
It's a good one.
It is a good one.
Well, shall we continue on and start chapter 3?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's good.
See if I can.
And sorry for being late, but I dismissed that pretty quickly.
Let's see if I can find.
Terry, I was wondering if we have an email list of this group's participants, or if people only connect on Facebook, or since I can't use Facebook, how I can connect with other participants outside of the group. Is anybody willing to send out their information, either a phone number or email or something?
I think there might be, I don't know if you have access to the chat message here.
No, I don't.
You don't, okay.
Not on a regular phone. Not on a regular phone, nope.
Okay. Well, you know what I'll do, Mary? If you're okay, I will share your email with everybody in this group on the next email I send out. And that way, if anybody wants to connect with you, they'll have your connect information. Is that okay with you?
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Because Mary she doesn't kind of have screens, no? You don't connect through a screen.
Because I'm blind, Freddie, I sort of choose not to, because then I don't know quite where to look, and it could be embarrassing, so I choose not to. I can if I really need to. But for the most part, I choose not to, because I don't get anything. I can hardly see you. I have some vision, but I have to look so close if I'm trying to see you that you're just seeing my eyeball.
Okay.
No.
Mary.
Okay, Mary, so I'll share your contact information with everyone so they can connect with you. All right.
I'll send Mary an email.
Okay, great. Beautiful. Okay, let's go ahead and start chapter 3, which is at 1 minute without sacrifice. And yes, I know it's pronounced atonement, but I like to say at 1 minute because for me it has more meaning. Okay, a further point must be perfectly clear before any residual fear still associated with miracles can disappear. The crucifixion did not establish the at 1 minute. The resurrection did. Many sincere Christians have misunderstood this. No one who is free of the belief in scarcity could possibly make this mistake. If the crucifixion is seen from an upside down point of view, it does appear as if God permitted and even encouraged one of his sons to suffer because he was good. This particularly unfortunate interpretation, which arose out of projection, has led many people to be bitterly afraid of God. Such anti-religious concepts enter into many religions. Yet the real Christian should pause and ask, how could this be? Is it likely that God himself would be capable of the kind of thinking which his own words have clearly stated is unworthy of his son? The best defense, as always, is not to attack another's position, but rather to protect the truth. It is unwise to accept any concept if you have to invert a whole frame of reference in order to justify it. This procedure is painful in its minor applications and genuinely tragic on a wider scale. Persecution frequently results in an attempt to justify the terrible misperception that God himself persecuted his own son on behalf of salvation. The very words are meaningless. It has been particularly difficult to overcome this because, although the error itself is no harder to correct than any other, many have been unwilling to give it up in view of its prominent value as a defense. In milder forms, a parent says, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," and feels exonerated in beating a child. Can you believe our Father really thinks this way? It is so essential that all such thinking be dispelled that we must be sure that nothing of this kind remains in your mind. I was not punished because you were bad. The holy benign lesson the at-one-ment teaches is lost if it is tainted with this kind of distortion in any form. The statement, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord," is a misperception by which one assigns his own evil past to God. The evil past has nothing to do with God. He did not create it, and he does not maintain it. God does not believe in retribution. His mind does not create that way. He does not hold your evil deeds against you. It is likely that he would hold them. Is it likely that he would hold them against me? Be very sure that you recognize how utterly impossible this assumption is and how entirely it arises from projection. This kind of error is responsible for a host of related errors, including the belief that God rejected Adam and forced him out of the Garden of Eden. It is also why you may believe from time to time that I am misdirecting you. I have made every effort to use words that are almost impossible to distort, but it is always possible to twist symbols around if you wish. Sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God. It arises solely from fear, and frightened people can be vicious. Sacrificing in any way is a violation of my injunction that you should be merciful, even as your Father in heaven is merciful. It has been hard for many Christians to realize that this applies to themselves. Good teachers never terrorize their students. To terrorize is to attack, and this results in rejection of what the teacher offers. The result is learning failure. I have been correctly referred to as the Lamb of God who taketh away the sins of the world. But those who represent the lamb as blood-stained do not understand the meaning of the symbol. Correctly understood, it is a very simple symbol that speaks of my innocence. The lion and the lamb lying down together symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict, but naturally live in peace. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing. A pure mind knows the truth, and this is its strength. It does not confuse destruction with innocence because it associates innocence with strength, not with weakness. Innocence is incapable of sacrificing anything because the innocent mind has everything and strives only to protect its wholeness. It cannot project. It can only honor other minds because honor is the natural greeting of the truly loved to others who are like them. The Lamb taketh away the sins of the world in the sense that the state of innocence or grace is one in which the meaning of the at-one-ment is perfectly apparent. The at-one-ment is entirely unambiguous. It is perfectly clear because it exists in light. Only the attempts to shroud it in darkness have made it inaccessible to those who do not choose to see. The at-one-ment itself radiates nothing but truth. It therefore epitomizes harmlessness and sheds only blessing. It could not do this if it arose from anything but perfect innocence. Innocence is wisdom because it is unaware of evil, and evil does not exist. It is, however, perfectly aware of everything that is true. The resurrection demonstrated that nothing can destroy truth. Good can withstand any form of evil, as light abolishes forms of darkness. The at-one-ment is therefore the perfect lesson, in it the final demonstration that all the other lessons I taught are true. If you can accept this one generalization now, there will be no need to learn from many smaller lessons. You are released from all errors if you believe this. The innocence of God is the true state of mind of his Son. In this state, your mind knows God, for God is not symbolic, he is fact. Knowing his Son as he is, you realize that the at-one-ment, not sacrifice, is the only appropriate gift for God's altar, where nothing except perfection belongs. The understanding of the innocent is truth. That is why their altars are truly radiant. Anybody like to share or comment?
So I was thinking when we were in our infancy, if you will, of mental growth, we saw everything as oppositional. So, and we also saw God as part of that. And so he was a vengeful God, and therefore vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, meaning that, you know, he's going to strike out and he's stronger than we are, so he'll take care of any opponent that we have. And we saw the blood of the Lamb as, again, part of that violence, part of that outpouring, if you will, and sacrifice. As we have matured, we're able to see the Lamb as innocent and not therefore weak, as we would have interpreted it. Again, as we continue to progress on our path, we have a lot of these misinterpretations, but they are growth nonetheless. And so then we get to the point where we see the Lamb as love, as the innocence of all, and that's the closest that we wind up getting to as we flip into being spirit-filled. We have the wonder of innocence, the accepting, if you will, of that state. And the vengeance part goes back to God. We give up that vengeful spirit, that judgmental self. We give it up back to God, who is now loving, and it just goes there. And that's it. It doesn't have to be sent anywhere else, because we give it to love, and love makes it disappear.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was not raised in any form of religion. So when you say we, I don't have that same experience that you had, Mary. And it's interesting. So a lot of times I'll say we, where I should probably say I, if it's my own personal experience, because I had a different experience than that. But
I apologize. You've corrected me for that before, and I forgot.
No, it's fine. And I don't mean that as a correction, but it's just an interesting perception, right? Because I know a lot of people have been indoctrinated into, religious beliefs and systems that could very well have that that sense of everything that you just said. So, you know, it gives me an interesting insight to that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, but even the course itself is written that way, especially this particular chapter here, because it talks about that religious aspect of Christianity.
Right. Yes, it does. It does talk about that.
So it's actually using that to.
Yep.
say,
But if you notice, it says I, right, as you're reading it, because Jesus wrote it. So Jesus says, I have made every effort and I am misdirecting you, right? So it's just an interesting.
He dictated it, no, to what's her name?
Helen Schuckman. Yes.
So they actually wrote it, her and.
Yes. I stand corrected. Correct.
Well, I mean, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yes. It was channeled. It was channeled.
It was channeled, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does speak in the first person though, doesn't it? I have said that only what God creates or what you create with the same will has any real existence.
Right.
It's always in the first person.
Yes. Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it makes for such a like it holds no bars, you know what I mean? It doesn't. It just gives it to you directly what this being, whatever it is channeling.
Right. Right.
It is God, but it's God encompassed in the at one man, you know, in hard to describe because, you know, I even have I was partly brought up Christian, but it was something that I did on my own, actually, only because I had no other recourse.
Right.
In terms of, you know, my experience of what I was going through in life, I said, oh, I'll do this, you know. But then I strayed away from it because it wasn't serving me in any way.
And I had a similar experience. I wasn't raised with any type of formal religion, but then of course at some point I thought, well, I want to understand what's the bigger picture? Like, what's spirituality? Why are all these people talking about God? What does it mean? So I started going to all these different religions. I never read, you know, I was never really indoctrinated fully in any of them, but of course I've heard some of these passages in the past through, you know, through different speakers, and I never really understood them. So it's interesting to see how Jesus, you know, is interpreting them and correcting them here in A Course in Miracles. And for me, this makes sense, you know, how he's explaining it. But it's but I know that, you know, some people have these deep rooted belief systems where they might read some of this and have a hard time, you know, being rooted out of that. And although it does make sense.
Yeah, I was raised in Judaism, and that's the root, you know, of the whole vengeance is mine, said the Lord. And but it's interesting because as a child, I didn't believe in that. You know, I mean, I believed in God, but I didn't believe in God in punishment or justice. And it's interesting because I didn't have any authority that told me, you know, what to believe. It was just some inner knowing that was like, I don't really believe these things that are written in the Old Testament, you know, to be, I don't know, it didn't sound right.
Interesting. That's the innocence, right?
It's either innocence or we're driven that way. You know, I grew up, I couldn't kill a fly. I still don't kill flies or any bug that's in the house. I escort them out. And as I grew older, I felt that was kind of weird because I always grew around people or kids that, you know, would squash a bug, and that used to hurt me. And then, of course, then I learned about Buddhism and Hinduism, you know, and they don't do that either because they believe that could be some kind of an ancestor. And that's when I realized, I go, you know, well, maybe there's something to that in me.
It resonated with the truth inside of you, right?
Oh, right. Somehow it was there. Yeah. I know, I think upon that, and it tickles me, it makes me kind of like,
Yeah, be careful.
It's what I call when you get to listen to yourself and you got the inner call, you start rejecting all those dogmas from religions. I went from one to another one to another one. In other words, I was pretty much run off because I was making a bunch of inquiries in regard to this and that, and I want answers. And the pastor and the padre and the cura and all those people, they said, you know what, get off from here, son. Try to find out, maybe you belong to another religion. And now that I grow old, I appreciate that because they forced me to get into myself and start digging into what I really need, what really satisfies my curiosity. And finally, here I am. I think the Curse for Miracles is like a ring made out to my size. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Wow. Interesting.
Good.
Interesting.
Yeah, I liked in the last paragraph there, I guess it was 8, what he says is in that last couple of sentences, knowing his son as he is, you realize that the atonement, not sacrifice, is the only appropriate gift for God's altar where nothing except perfection belongs. The understanding of the innocent is truth, and that is why their altars are truly radiant. I can, I used to really hang on to my mistakes, and I'm come from a judgmental family, let's just say, Southern farmers, you can imagine back in the Depression era. And so there's that background of just, jumping to conclusions, not hearing people through, coming up with, I already know what you're going to say. My mother used to do that to me. Son, I know what you're going to say. And that used to really get to me because I couldn't finish, and I understand. I find myself doing the same thing, the exact same thing. And so what has happened the last year or so, and I've been studying the course for about 38 years, 39 years, but I never really super committed to it. And I'm finding now that the true lessons come from my wife, my children, or those that I reject. I have to say, why am I putting this judgment on this person? They've done, nothing to me, as if something could be done to me, So anyway, I love that summation that he gives in that paragraph 8 there on page 38. So anyway.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you for sharing that, Tim. That was good. And it goes back to what Angelina was saying earlier, that when she was, when she was younger, or as she was discovering her spirituality, there was that innocence inside of her that just said, this isn't right. Yeah. So that's
very much so. Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, it looks like we have come to the end of our time today, and I appreciate all of you being here and handling me getting bumped off and continuing on so I could rejoin. So thanks for being here. Anybody else have anything else they want to share before we close?
It was a great meeting.
See you next week, all of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you,
very
Emma.
much.
I regret missing the first half.
Thank you, everyone, for everything you shared today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for sending out my email, Terry.
Yes.
Bye.
Send it out to
I'll send
everyone.
you an email, Mary.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.